Hey there, welcome to A Year of Trek. I am Mish, and I'm a Trekkie. Today, today, that one show, Star Trek Prodigy, dropped, and it was fantastic. I got to put something up here because pretty much from here on out, we are going to be talking about spoilers. So if you have not watched the first episode, um, go watch it. It is, I don't know. I think I have some feelings that it's going to get some flack, but I really enjoyed it. So there you go. Go watch it, and you've been warned. So this time, okay. So I am from my car. It's Thursday, volleyball day. Um, I do have notes, so I don't have to do everything from memory. Uh, I really enjoyed this episode. The reason I think that it's going to get flack is because it's at least the way it's set up is not Star Trek. Um, I don't know how you would define Star Trek, but yeah, I don't know. I just really like this. In fact, um, uh, Rob Prodigy was fantastic. So Rob was not the first person to say this. I had read this somewhere else or that somebody basically had kind of thrown out the idea that Prodigy was essentially what Clone Wars is to Star Wars, the cartoon. It's not necessarily for kids, even though it is rated. It's rated TV F7 or V7. I don't know. At least this episode was. But it's definitely for a younger crowd, young adults. Um, so, I, but I have to say the graphics, the CGI, and I don't know what specific term you would call. I don't know the specific term you'd call for animation, but I would just say the computer animation for they did like it was so. I was blown away. I watched it last night on my big screen TV, and then I watched it again today on a computer. And I'm sorry, it was so good. It was good. Even the story, even the setup story, was good. The animation was fantastic. Rob, he says a different approach for a different audience. A lot of the pacing and adventure style may not be Star Trek. Now that we are in the stars, who knows? Yeah, and that's a great point. Um, we don't know what kind of adventures they're going to go on. We don't know. We don't know. It's a whole brand new world. Not necessarily where no one or no man or no one has gone before, but definitely, yeah. This is a good show. So I had to make notes on because if anybody has watched, even though I had watched season one, even season two, getting into season two and doing this on Lower Decks, I really sucked at the names. But so I actually made notes on the names. So of course we open with Dal. Dal is even in the show, they're like, yeah, we don't even know what race he is, and of course he isn't going to say, or he doesn't say. We're introduced to this girl named Gwen. She is she's an interpreter, but she is the daughter of the main bad guy that they call the Divider. Um, and the robot, Dreadnought, he calls her Prodigy, not Prodigy, like the episode name, but it was almost like a different pronunciation of the same word, Prodigy, but he used Prodigy or something like that. So I don't know if it's just a different pronunciation or if that's what he calls her. Anyway, so it kind of sets up they're on this prison planet or whatever, and he tries to escape and fails. He's helped by, and we don't know exactly who it is yet, but that's kind of our first introduction to who they call Zero, and that is the Medusan. Originally, we meet the Medusan in the Next Generation, or the original generation. Progeny. Oh, okay. Progeny equals offspring. Thank you, Rob. Okay, that makes total sense. And so then basically, apparently Zero is causing havoc. He's one of those escapees that, of course, can't leave the planet, but is just kind of making hell for everybody there. So Dal, he fails his escape, gets put in prison, ends up going to Gwen, and Gwen is like, hey, we want to, and even the Divider is like, okay, we're going to use this guy because we think he's dealing with Zero, and so we're going to use him to find whatever. And Gwen's like, look, the kid talks too much. I'll figure it out. But of course, if she fails at that, then Dreadnought, the big bad robot, he gets to take over. So of course she puts, she's like, hey, we're trying to find this guy. So the last time when she's talking to Dal, she says he was down in this one section, and so he gets assigned to this lower level dig, because it's like a mining prison, kind of almost like Rura Pente. And so that's where he meets up with Rocktalk. Now we don't know Rocktalk's name yet, because it's kind of set up that there's nobody can really talk to anybody, because all universal translation is down. So there's no communication. So you kind of have to guess. When Dal and Rocktalk end up getting paired together, things happen, and Dal ends up using their little laser cutter and cuts like the ceiling, and this one big rock falls. Now, it's funny. I got to back up here because I'm actually I'm just kind of talking not off of my notes. We are taking a couple steps back. So I mentioned that Gwen is she's a translator, and that's kind of where we're introduced to the Kazon. It's funny because we saw the Kazon in the trailer, but we only see the Kazon for like half a minute in the actual episode. So we don't know. I mean, we know it's in the Delta Quadrant. It's kind of been told to us, but we don't know where in the Delta Quadrant, and we don't know exactly when either. That's the other question. But the Kazon, I said the Kazon are truly evil. This is my notes, because they traded a kitten into slavery, and that's kind of where we learn that Gwen is a translator. When the Divider is talking to Dreadnought, and he's saying, hey, if my daughter can't do this, then it's up to you. He mentions something about this prize that he's looking for, and he said, and this is the quote. So he says, I can't have the thought of the Federation influence her. That's the quote from Divider. So obviously, they know about the Federation. Now, do they know about the Federation because of Janeway? Back on the cat. The poor kitty kitty. I hope we get to see her be saved. Yes, because, spoiler alert, she gets left behind, which sucks. But we did get some good screen time with her. So we don't know, like, how the Divider knows about the Federation. So it would be interesting, and of course, the how big, and what the Federation really means, and how the positive influence of the Federation would negatively or positively affect his daughter, which would be negative for him. So anyway, Gwen likes to prefers to speak in Basic. We learn that. Now, my question is that, of course, this right now, the whole story is kind of centered around Dal and him and his search for Zero, and him finding, this ship that we all know about, and then them escaping. So the story kind of revolves around him, but and so when he's speaking, of course, he's speaking English. When Gwen is talking with her father, the Divider, he says, "Oh, I know you like to speak in Basic, so we'll just speak in Basic," which is English. So, and of course, Gwen, because she's a translator, can talk to Dal in Basic. Is that what we're? Oh, geez, stupid teenagers! I'm at a high school right now. It's fucking morons. Anyway. I just lost my thought. But is Dal speaking Basic, or I don't know? It's a confusing question. But basically, does Dal speak Basic because, and is that what we're all listening to? I don't know. My brain hurts just from trying to talk about it. Now, when what's his name? When Dal is sent to the depths with Rock Talk, we don't know the name yet. He's watching the safety video, and it's like, don't do this, and there's this big X. I thought the training video was kind of cute. He's like, oh, there's lots of X's there. So love the safety video. That's kind of what I put. So back to them lasering, big rock falls, and they see the ship. Okay, so I have a question. The inside, so this thing falls on top of Rock Talk and Dal. And Dal is, Rock Talk covers Dal. So it's almost like the rock falls on top of Rock Talk and he saves. Okay. Now, when it's almost like they broke the outer shell and they are inside this huge rock that fell. Okay, that's kind of what it looks like in the beginning, because and those the I don't know what kind of rock. I'm not a geologist or anything like that, but the rocks you can crack and you open it and it's got all the crystals on the inside, but it's hollow. That's kind of what this is. It's just a big rock because there's the crystals that they've been mining. It's just full. It's just full. This rock is just full of them. But I was confused mildly because. And here's my question. Are they inside the big rock? Or did they open up a cavern? Did the rock falling, did that open up a cavern where they are seeing all this stuff and the ship is inside the cavern? So, I don't know. You could go either way. Initially, I was thought that they were inside the rock, but the way the ship escapes, it almost seems like it's a cavern. So, my other question is when. Okay. So, when this is going on. Now, the ship that they find. Okay. All right. So Rob, I don't want to silence you. Yeah, the rock falling leading to the cavern was an odd translation. I thought that they either fell or cut open a doorway when he cut the wall and the ceiling. Yeah, so we're kind of on the same page with that. So when it comes to when, I have this big when. So I did a little bit of research. Now, if you freeze frame a certain section when they're kind of looking at the ship, it's the USS Protostar. I mean, they already use that name, but the ship insignia or the number is NX for Naval Experiment, and it's numbered 76884. Okay, 76884. So now the Voyager, USS Voyager, its insignia or its number is 74656. All right. No, I did not remember that off the top of my head. I had to look that up because the only one I remember is the Enterprise 1701. That's the only one. But the Titan is 80102. So and then I can't even remember, what is the Cerritos? I can't remember what the Cerritos is off the top of my head. But I think that starts with a 7. I think it's 78. Okay, so with the NX, I mean, the technology in here is amazing. Like you've got the heads up displays, and I know it's all a cartoon, but like seeing if it was in real, you have all these heads up displays, almost like displays you could actually touch, even though they're doing it mainly, they're touching the panels. But the other thing is, what universe are they in? Now I heard something about how this is going to blend, or maybe it was Picard. I can't remember. Oh, okay. So the Cerritos is 75567. Okay, so the Cerritos came before the Protostar, and of course the Protostar is a prototype. It's it's an NX. So it came before the Titan. It came after the Cerritos, and of course after Voyager. Okay. So, and then the Titan, but the Titan came out, I don't know, what was it? Several years. Titan's only been around for just a few years. When we look at the Next Generation universe. But this is kind of where I'm going with this is, of course, it's got a new badge design. So was the badge special to the Protostar? I think I'm going to go with that because, of course, during this design, they're still using the same logo. I mean, the same type of badge. So I like the new badge, and I think it would be specifically for this ship. That's the story I'm going to go with. But the nacelles, this is kind of what comes into question. The nacelles are very Kelvin universe-like. Very Kelvin universe-like. If you look at the design, they look like they came off of the Enterprise from Star Trek 2009. They are that close. So I want to say that it is in the prime timeline, and I hate that term, but basically the regular timeline where where you had the one that we all know, So but yeah, the nacelles definitely came from a design concept based in the Kelvinverse. Do we have a year star date for this series? I feel like the tech differences reminds me of Discovery versus Enterprise, but the Kelvin versions. Yeah, so no. As far as I know, we don't have a star date. The only thing I know is that uh, um, the only thing I know is that we're in the Delta Quadrant. And honestly, like I mean, we can say the protostar was built sometime between the Ceratops and the Titan. Okay, so that gives us a next generation timeline. And of course, it had to be built after Janeway got back from her trip. Okay, um, because it's the uniforms. The uniforms are very, even though uniforms changed, hers, that uniform is very Voyager-like. Um, and then, uh, but how far in the future this is from what we're used to, have no clue. Um, Now, we're supposed to at some point run into Captain Chakotay. So, I don't know. I have no clue. Hell, it could be, it, let's see, where would Captain Chak, let's see. It depends on how old they make Chakotay. Okay. So, I mean, it could be 10 years after they got back. He was a lieutenant commander in the Next Generation, and so, or in Voyager. So it might have taken him some time. He had proved himself in the Delta Quadrant. He reintegrated into Starfleet and ended up becoming a captain. So we could be looking maybe 10 years ish after they got back. So, but no, that's as far as I know. Um, so when we're introduced to really finding out that that Zero is a Medusan, I like kind of the flashback where they had him in the box, just like they did in the original series, and then they open it up, and apparently they were using him to basically make um, basically other people crazy. It almost looked like it was used against the race that Morn is from DS9. Let's see, date-wise, possibly late 2370s to 2380s. Possibly. I don't know. We might, maybe when we run into Chakotay, we'll get, if it is alive, not maybe if he's just a hologram, but if they run into Chakotay, then we might get a star date then. That'll give us a better idea. So, so anyway, as we go through the story, Dal and Rox, or Rack, fuck, what's his name? Rock Talk, they end up basically recruiting. They recruit some different people. One of them, what is his name? Jango Pog, Jan Kong Pog, whatever. Anyway, he's a Tellarite. And then Rock Talk gets Murph, who is the blurb, and so they're trying to get stuff together, and of course they're tracked down, and the bad guy, what's the bad guy's name, or Dreadnought ends up saying, okay, well, here we're going to take the ship. This is what your father's been looking for. He sends Gwen onto the ship to collect anybody else, and then Dal is like, hey, let's fight back. And so they end up getting the ship. They end up kind of kidnapping Gwen. So she's part of this. And when she fights, so throughout the episode so far, and it was a double episode, she's got this braid, kind of this metal design thing on her arm. and it's this liquid metal sword type thing, which I thought was freaking cool. Like to see that like live action and to be able to put that I thought that was a really cool touch. I like that. I really like that. And then how where he grabs onto it and then who was it? Rock Talk grabs onto it and then it kind of just liquefies in his hand or her hand. I don't know if it's a boy or girl, voiced by a girl, but and then it goes up her arm over onto her other arm, and it's like a staff. Like I just thought that was really cool. Um, and then as things are going, as they're going through, I can't remember what it was said, but they're talking about the group is talking back and forth about we don't know what we're doing, and even Gwen is saying you don't know what you're doing, and the Tellarite, I'll get their name at some point. I'll learn how to pronounce it. She says you don't know what you're doing, and the Tellarite's like yeah, um, a series of bad decisions. I do know what I'm doing. Yeah, her sword is almost like a telepathic living metal. Yeah. It was very, very cool. But that line, I know what I'm doing, a series of bad decisions. I thought that was classic. I just thought that was really, really cool. And then of course, as they're flying around, what's his name ends up getting back into the ship because he had to. He was Dal. His whole thing was he was going to work on the what do you call it, on the shields. So he ends up fixing the shields. Shields come up. He goes in. They're escaping. There's rubble that's getting in the way. And then, of course, we get the line from the trailer where they're like, oh, do we have weapons? Oh, we don't know how to turn them on. And he says, just hit all the buttons, hit all the ones until they go pew, 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 pew. Now, it's so funny because I'm watching it last night. My wife is sitting next to me, just kind of working on stuff. And even I've heard the line a couple times. She had never heard the line. And so when he's like, hit them all until they go pew, 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 she chuckled. I actually got a laugh out of that. And then the escape, Gwen finally gets to see the stars. So it's almost like, oh, I'm a captive. No, I'm free. That kind of the light that looks in her eyes. And then there's like, okay, well, where should we go? And Dal's like, I don't know. And then Rock's like, oh, well, he's not the only one making decisions. He's got a lot of help. And then, boom, we get Janeway. So, see Janeway at the very end. So we don't really know exactly what her role is, but she just said, she says that she's the help. I don't, not the help, but basically, I would say she's a glorified help menu. But yeah, for a setup story, I thought it was great. I thought it was a good story. I thought it was well written. I thought the comedy was good. I thought the seriousness was good. Animation was fantastic. I want Eagle Moss to make a ship. Like, I thought I was done, like, ordering Eagle Moss ships. I want a copy. I want their version of the Protostar. I really like that ship. It's just a really cool design. Another long timer who's done stuff. Oh my gosh. Oh, yes. I totally. The shot of the ship going through the waterfall with everyone cheering was epic. Yes. I can't even believe I forgot to mention that. Totally. That was such a good, oh my God, that was so good. Because it just kind of flies through and yeah, so sweet. I like the music. So the music is done by the same dude who did the music for Star Trek '09. So he's definitely not a newbie when it comes to Star Trek music. Um, and I don't know if he did anything else outside of the Kelvinverse when it comes to music, but at least he did it here. So maybe that's our Kelvinverse connection. Don't know. Um, but yeah, so there we go. It was a great start to the season. Now it apparently it only has 10 episodes. This was 1 and 2. So we might only be looking at 8 more episodes. I don't know. Um, but hey, I'll take as many as they want to throw at us. Um, yeah, so I'm super excited. Really looking forward to learning how this universe is going to be, or this part of the universe is going to unfold. And I hope that young people get it. I really do. Um, okay, so what do we have coming up tomorrow? Tomorrow we have our weekly check-in, and I'll have to be honest. I I felt so bad not doing any. Like, I know I said, it's been so much, and it totally is, but I don't know. This once a week thing, I don't know if I'll be able to do it. Maybe Monday and Friday. Fuck, I don't know. Anyway, tomorrow, not exactly sure what time. Probably 7 p.m. I'll try and do it sooner, but uh, but we'll see. Until then, live long and prosper, and I will see you on the next